So, well, what I'm doing here is I'm just using my keyboard and my mouse to actually manipulate this world, right? So, using my mouse, I can turn around, look at this entire background, which is actually modeled based on publicly available information on one of the sections of the Bukom Island. I can actually quickly fly up to show you how exactly it looks like. In brief, this is a small section of the Bukom Island where we could see a few small buildings, some area where the vehicles are parked, and these areas were parking area for some of the cranes that we've noticed in the map. And of course, there are these storage tanks as well. The stuff that you see behind, this is just a made up picture. It's not nothing close to reality. This was because beyond this, it's actually the sea and the Singapore skyline, right? So that is something that we did not put in. But this is just to give you a closed view of the entire space that is created. Let me just come down and just talk to the other team members who have joined. Hey Abhishek, hi. Abhishek, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Yeah, I can hear you. And I think we're waiting for Deepata and Debatri to join as well.
Sure.
Okay. Okay, so there is Tanoj who has joined. Hey, hi Tanoj.
Hi.
Yeah, hi. Okay, so that's another colleague. So we'll also wait for Debatri. So while she's going to join. So guys, we're gonna talk about some safety practices that we'll have to adopt in these areas. So we're gonna take you through each and every safety scenario or a risky scenario that we'll have to be prepared for. The first, if I were to activate it, let me just activate the training for you guys. Okay, so it started. So the first one, as you guys know, is in general in most of these plants, it involves vehicular movement. When it comes to vehicular movement, for example, if you notice the truck which is right behind you guys, the trucks are supposed to go in a certain direction only, but some of the times these trucks would bypass the road signs and they would go in wrong directions, right? So this is one of the foremost scenarios that needs to be prevented, and for which tools like IoT can be used to track vehicular movement, right? Let's just move ahead. So if you guys have any questions, feel free to ask me. Any questions, guys? Any questions that you guys have? Okay, so we can move ahead. So if you guys follow me,
Next trigger zone for you.
if you guys follow me, we'll just go to the next trigger zone and activate it.
Welcome to trigger zone.
Okay, so once Abhishek also joins us, now we saw already about vehicular movement in general, where vehicles should move around, right? But another important scenario that happens because of vehicular movement in different directions is when a vehicle sort of moves around, and let's say because they're not observant on the direction, let's say the driver sort of skips looking at the direction for a second, they may actually encounter situations like this where there is a pedestrian who's still walking across along the zebra lining, but let's say the pedestrian has not noticed the vehicle, there is a possibility of a vehicle to man collision, right? So that's another area that again has to be avoided. Right? So primarily it's about moving vehicle, avoiding scenarios where let the vehicle pass. So avoiding scenarios which can happen because of vehicular movement, and because of if both vehicle and the pedestrian are not paying attention to each other, then there is a possibility of an accident like we just saw. Now there are different COVID guidelines that have come in place in the recent 1 year. one of those guidelines is about social distancing, right? It's about masking up and it is about social distancing, right? So one of the rules that has come in is to sort of limit the amount of human to human interaction in close proximity. When there are two people close to each other, one of the important aspects is to sort of how do we minimize the communication or too lengthy conversations, right? So let's just move around. If you go back, if you see that other interaction zone, we will assemble there. So this one that you see here is actually more like a game kind of an environment where this sort of tells every user in the space of how they need to, where they need to interact with, right? Guys, if you notice the two guys who are standing here, so these guys have been there for the longest time ever since we started the meeting, right? So this is another scenario that can happen in the island here, which is not allowed. The social distancing norms, the latest norms are about like, hey, you can't talk for more than like 10 minutes in close proximity from another because there is a chance of infection which can spread when you are actually very close to each other.
Yeah, I mean, at the same time, right? There's a potential there, by the way, that wasn't Liverpool bus. What's the potentially
So do you guys have any questions so far?
I have next trigger zone for you.
Any questions, guys? Okay. So let's just now go to another area where it involves the where there are more types of vehicles in the field, and if pedestrians are moving around in that field where they were already moving around, but when some activity happens, they're not allowed to move. They're not allowed to move, and that is indicated generally using temporary warning signs. But let's look at, why don't you follow me? I'll show you in a scenario where the temporary warning sign was not placed. And because they did not place the temporary warning sign, what happens is what you'll notice now. Oh, by the way, that's Debatri, who's using a different avatar. Hey, hi Debatri. Okay, does this move around? So just follow this yellow line, guys. Okay. And as you walk around, so as you can see, this all these tanks are actually created based on the model that we've seen from Google Maps. Just wait for the rest of my team. Oh, they're here. Okay. Cool. By the way, that's Debatri, who is using a different avatar. Abhishek is using a realistic avatar, the custom created avatar. Debatri is using a Memoji avatar, and Karthik is using a generic avatar, and Tanoj, Deeplata, they're using a dynamically generated avatar with just a photograph. Okay, so we're going to activate this other scenario.
Welcome to trigger zone.
So this is a scenario where, as you can see, there is no clear road sign, or maybe he did not see it properly, which is talking about, hey, there could be a crane in operation here, and it disallows people from moving across. But that was happening there. As you guys are seeing, I could see all you guys. So that's the scenario that happens when people do not look at the road signs, or the road signs are not clearly placed, which can cause a catastrophic event where the log could fall on the pedestrian, and it could lead to a casualty, right? So always pay attention to the signs, warning signs, as long as you are inside the island.
Trigger zones are completed. We hope you like this experience.
Okay, guys. Any questions so far, guys, from what you have seen? Abhishek and Abhishek, Debatri, Deepa. Any questions, guys?
Yeah, so you are saying basically here this scenarios, right? We can either replicate using a desktop or a phone or just by VR devices like that, and we can understand all these scenarios and have a better understanding of all these problem statements, right?
Correct.
Right?
Correct.
If I don't have a VR device in my house.
Yes, yes, exactly. So you could just use a PC like we were using now, or this is a VR device. You can also wear this device and get a much more immersive experience as if you are inside the plant, and you can walk around, feel the size of the plant as well.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm gonna wrap up the meeting by just showing a few more areas here. So in the software, you could actually bring in your PowerPoint. You can just sort of use the PowerPoint dynamically, and then convey different showcase much more aspects in the training that you want to talk about, right? So these are different slides that you can show. These can be uploaded in advance on the backend dashboard, and in real-time basis you can see it. Likewise, you can also get in a video as well, play a video and showcase the video to all the participants as well. Okay, so this video is actually quite interesting because it's actually more of a augmented reality scenario, right? So where this is more of an augmented reality scenario. May not be so relevant for today's meeting here. Of course, you can have a whiteboard and bring in a browser and stuff like that. So yeah, that's pretty much it. That's pretty much it, guys. If you guys have any other questions, Karthik, Deepa, Debatri, Abhishek, do you guys have any questions?
No.
Yeah. So like everybody is seeing this video, right? So as we were walking around, around this field randomly or guided through those trigger experiences, you could notice that all of us are still connected. If you look at avatars, when people are looking at at a certain item, then the avatar is interested or the user is interested in a certain item. For example, if Debatri was to look behind her, maybe one of those tanks, you will see her avatar turn back. Debatri, if you can sort of turn around. Yeah, so that is Debatri's avatar, and she's looking somewhere else. So I could clearly understand that her interest is in something else. Maybe after I completed the training, or maybe for a brief moment she was actually not hearing what I was saying, right? So this way you can actually create much more engaging, immersive trainings, be it for safety or be it for process training or whatever it is, all in a multi-user setup. All right then, thanks everybody for joining the session. I'm going to end the recording right now.